All right, hey everybody, it's Brian. Today's episode, we are measuring developer, and I'm going to start the developing process. So there are two things you need to measure about your developer. You need to measure the quantity of the developer and the temperature of the developer. So first things first, I'm going to develop 2 rolls of 35 millimeter film, which are in this tank, and this is a standard Paterson tank. So the first question is, how much developer do I need? Well, it's a half-liter tank, but I actually need more than a half-liter of developer. If I only put in a half-liter of developer, then I'm not going to have enough to cover the top level of the roll of film on top, and it's going to come out with these bubble marks on it that look like it went through an airport scanner, and you don't want that. So you want to make sure there's enough fluid, enough solution in the tank to cover the second roll. So that's going to require more than 500 milliliters. Well, how much? Well, on Paterson tanks, if you look at the bottom, at least if you look on this tank, if you look at the bottom, I doubt seriously you can see this on the video, but it does. Let's see here. Yeah, here it is. It does say for 35 millimeter film, you need to use 290 milliliters of solution. So if I'm developing 1 roll of film, I generally will measure out 300 milliliters, which is over the 290 required. For 2 rolls, however, I do not need 580 milliliters. Based upon my experience, based upon the experiments I've done and having developed this stuff in this tank for a while, 550 is fine. So 550 milliliters of solution is what we're going to use, and let's get that ready. So 550 milliliters, I'm going to use a dilution ratio of 1+3, which means 25% stock solution to 75% water, and that's ordinary tap water. You do not need distilled water for this process, for this part of the process. So I'm going to need 137.5 milliliters of solution stock solution rather, in the graduated cylinder. This cylinder is graduated to 100, 150, 200. Between 150 and 200, there's a mark for 125. So what I want to get the meniscus of the stock solution halfway between the 125 and halfway between halfway between the 125 and the 150, right there. So that's where I want to be. I want to see the meniscus of the solution right there, and that'll be close enough. All right, so here's my Microphen, which is the developer we're using today, and let's see if I can do this left-handed. All right. Nope, not enough. And let's see here. Nope, not yet. Oh, getting there. A little more. That's just a wee bit too much, just a tiny bit too much. So I'm going to pour back just a little bit. There we go. Let's see if that works. Let's see what that does. And that's pretty close. It's just slightly past the halfway mark, but it's close enough. We're not making polio vaccine, it's just black and white developer. And one of the great things about working with black and white chemicals is almost is good enough, generally. I mean, there is some leeway. You want to try to be as close as you can to the actual numbers, but if you're off by just a bit, it's no big deal. Okay, so now I need 550 milliliters. Well, this graduated cylinder holds 500 milliliters of solution. So I've got this other graduated cylinder. This is the one I use for Rodinol, because Rodinol you use in very small quantities. So I picked this thing up, and it goes up to 50 milliliters. So I'm going to put 50 milliliters of just ordinary tap water right in here. Okay, and there we go. That's got it. Okay, 50 milliliters of ordinary tap water, and I've got some other tap water here. I'm going to fill up the graduated cylinder to make up a total volume of 500 in the cylinder. And there we go. Just over, make sure that, and nailed it. Okay, very good. All right, get rid of that. All right, so now I've got solution here. I'm going to mix this up with our chopstick. So the solution is now nice and mixed. And we'll have to measure it, measure the temperature. And let's see here. The temperature comes out to, this stuff is about 67 Fahrenheit, just under 40 degrees, excuse me, just under 20 degrees. Moving up a bit. Wow. Just barely 68 degrees Fahrenheit, or 20 degrees centigrade. All right, so that's great. I do not need to compensate for temperature variance because I got lucky today and the water coming out of the tap and the solution in the cylinder just happened to be exactly 20 degrees. All right, so what's my developing time? Well, I'm developing some Pan 100. And I'm going to shot it at exposure index 200. I've got 1 to 3 solution in Microphen, so that's going to be 16 minutes. That's simple. All right. Now, I'm going to take, here's got my developer. Here's my tank. Don't need this anymore. And now, remove the rubber top. This is still, this clicks into place when you turn it clockwise like this, and you hear it click into place, then it's light tight. Although I generally keep the plastic top on unless I'm working with chemicals. So this is water, this is solution. I don't think that's going to cause much of a problem. In fact, my experience is it's not in terms of the getting the solution mixed up right. Because we're going to do something to make sure that's not a problem. All right, stopwatch or smartphone. Here we go. All right, so I got my stopwatch out. Okay, so I'll tell you what, let's put this here. There. So there's the stopwatch, water, solution, tank, swizzle stick that we're going to use to agitate. So first put in the water. 50 milliliters of water in the tank. It's going to make up the volume that we need. And then we're going to pour in the developer. Right, developer's in. Start the clock. And agitate. Agitate for just I'd agitate for just 10 seconds initially. Some people agitate longer. I don't think it's necessary. 10, 15 seconds, what have you. That's good enough. I'm going to rinse out the cylinder. And I'm going to keep an eye on the clock. And I'm going to agitate the solution for 10 seconds each minute. So when we come back up to a minute, I'll agitate again in 15 seconds, 10 seconds. Close enough. And 7, 8, 9, 1 minute. It doesn't have to be that exact. I mean, I'm just doing this for demonstration purposes. So 10 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And that's it. Some people like to put the rubber lid back on the tank and then invert it. And they'll do inversions instead of agitations. I find that to be unnecessary. This is just fine. The reason that you're agitating the film is simply to get fresh solution against the film's surface. As the film is developing and it's sitting there and the fluid's not moving, the fluid becomes static, and you want to get fresh solution on the surface of the film once a minute. That's the only reason you're doing this. There's no reason to shake this thing like a can of house paint. It's just not necessary. All right, coming up on 2 minutes. Okay, and while I'm waiting, I'm going to go ahead and prep my graduated cylinder for the next step that I'll do the cylinder for, which is the hypo wash. So I've got just some generic hypo wash here from Freestyle Photographic. I'm going to put just a wee little, tiny little just a splash. A splash of hypo wash. I believe that is the scientific term. So a splash of hypo wash in the bottom of the cylinder. That's it. That's all we need. And then just fill the rest up with water. And the hypo wash does not need to be carefully measured. I mean, this one happened to come out to 500 milliliters, but it is not necessary to get the hypo wash solution dead accurate in terms of volume. 1 more minute. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There. All right. So I don't think you need to watch me develop this stuff for 16 minutes. I just wanted to give you an idea of how to start the process, or at least how I start the process. I hope this has been helpful to you, and I think that's all the video for today. So take care. See you next time. Bye-bye.